Lagos Talks in 91.3, 31 minutes gone past 4 o'clock. Time for us to take a deep dive into the regular degler on a typical Thursday evening where we bring you an exciting episode of The Office. And this evening, of course, as per usual, as per culture and customary of us, we get to bring in experts in the corporate world to come enlighten us. They get to spend a few minutes with us to give us some tidbits here and there and some perspectives to some salient issues and topics as far as corporate life and human resource management is concerned. Of course, you know that this program, which is The Office, is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, CIPM, and Lagos Talks 91.3. Today's topic is influencing change in the public sector. Influencing change in the public sector. And our guest is with us this evening. She is Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM, and the MD CEO, ADTO Consultancy. And we have her, she has joined us via Zoom. It's good to have you, Princess. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Okay, all right. We're having a chit chat the other time, but I think Lagos would like to know how you're faring and how you're enjoying the holidays.
Like I told you earlier, it's really a holiday and a working holiday combined in one, and it's been good. Like I said, the weather is can be likened to what we have going on in Nigeria right now, so I'm not missing home much. I just feel like I'm at home.
Okay, and then the weathermen and women have it that you might not be enjoying that for a long time. So enjoy it while it lasts, okay?
Yes, I'm going to lap it all up while it lasts.
All
And
right.
when the weather changes, you can be sure I'll be running back home.
Okay, that's why you're a Nigerian as well. So you have best of both worlds. It's good to have you join us,
Absolutely.
Princess Adenike
Thank you.
Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM, the MD CEO, ADTO Consultancy. She is an astute public sector administrator with work experience that spans over 3 decades within Nigeria and the UK, both within the private and public sectors, including the UK's Home and Foreign Office, where she served in various capacities over 21 years. And she also served as a career diplomat on secondment appointment to some countries, including the British High Commission in Abuja, Nigeria. She was hunted as a technocrat director for the Lagos State government back in December 2008 in the Office of Transformation, Creativity and Innovation, a position she held until her appointment as permanent secretary at the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, where she worked meritoriously before her statutory retirement at age 60 recently. Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi studied dramatic arts in the University of Ife. She later proceeded to the London College of Printing and Media Studies and thereafter the London University Film Institute, where she bagged a distinction diploma in media studies and photography and a second degree in cinematography. She regularly attends facilities and facilitates and moderates as well at trainings, workshops, conferences, seminars, and symposiums, both locally and internationally, principally in her core area of expertise and in as a member of various professional bodies. It's good to have you join us once again, and I'm super elated because I saw in your profile that we share the same alma mater, although the name changed to the University of Obafemi Awolowo University.
It's
But
always great, Ife. It's
great,
always
great.
great, Ife. Greatest of the greatest.
Of the great.
There are universities, and there is a
And there is a
university,
university.
and others.
Yeah, I'm sure people are like yimmering to us and like they've come again, but that's what we do.
Oh, that's their
Yeah,
wahala.
outstanding like that. Anyway, so today's topic is influencing change in the public sector. I mean, your profile speaks for you. You've had your fair share of experience plying your trade in the public sector. So which brings us to our first question. Just to set the background tone for today's discussion, do you want to please explain to our listeners what the public sector is and its primary function?
Okay, thank you so very much, Carla. Now, what is the public sector? The public sector is a section or a segment of the economy that is controlled by the national, by the state, and the local government. The public sector is responsible for implementing all of the public policies that we have at all of the three tiers of government. And sometimes the agencies that they have elected officers working in those places. So, for example, you have a DG of somewhere, an MD of somewhere, which is still part of the government agencies, the public sector agencies. In a nutshell, that's what the public sector is all about. And its main function is to respond to the needs and demands of the citizenry. As a matter of fact, the only reason why we have the public sector in place is to meet the needs of the citizenry across all of those government sectors. And they're supposed to meet those needs in a way that also meets the expectations of the citizens. This involves identifying the citizens' needs, all of their demands, and putting in place policies, processes, and strategies to deliver on all of those things. And like I said earlier, this is applicable to all the three tiers of government, the federal, the state, and the local government. I think that about wraps it all up.
Okay, interesting, because you mentioned the three levels of government: the local government,
yes,
the state, and then the federal.
The state and the federal.
Is there a point where there's a nexus, where there's some sort of synergy between these levels on policy implementation?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There is, because the federal, being the arrowhead, sort of puts all of those policies in place. And those policies are devolved into the state and then into the local governments. And that's where the nexus is. But because of the peculiarity of every state and every local government within the state, some of them might be tweaked so that they can just fit well with those different, nuances of the various states and local governments, but not going to be very far from what the federal has dictated in those policies.
Interesting. So, I mean, it brings to mind, okay, everything cannot be easy street all the time. Perhaps will be some challenges, like you mentioned, some peculiarities at some levels. But what are some of the challenges, common challenges, the ones that you've, according to your experience or in line with what you've seen so far over the years, what would you say are the common or some common challenges faced by the public sector warranting the implementation and importance of change in 2023?
That's a big question. I think, for me, one of the major problems of the public sector is the political influence, political interference, and some other pressures, that are external, which includes insufficient funding, budgets to run these public sectors, and sometimes be grossly inadequate. We can also talk about poor leadership and poor management of resources, wasteful and lack of prudence. Sometimes these are things that due to personal gains and interests, or just, not being prudent enough. We also have the corruption bit. We're not going to shy away from it. This program is one that tends to shake the table. We have to say it as it is. Otherwise, the change that we're looking for will not come. And the corruption takes different forms and different levels. It comes in different shades. And sometimes some of this corruption has found its way into the public sector, even in terms of recruitment, in terms of appointment processes, where we do have nepotism, we do have inducement, which overrides merit. We have the poor wage as well, and sometimes poor working conditions, which we all know. Some of them is what has led to this Japa syndrome that we are experiencing now in Nigeria. I must also talk about the values, and that values is not just about the public sector. I think there's some kind of decadence that's permeating us in Nigeria, and I think the whole world at large. And that is also affecting us in the public sector, I must say. you know, the core values, there's no more integrity, the discipline, you know, political neutrality, bigotry everywhere. All of these things find their way into the public sector because remove all the human capital working within the public sector and put them outside, they become citizens as well. And bring them from outside and put them back in the offices of the public sector in governance, they become public sector or people's or public servants. So, you know, it all affects everything. There's also red tapeism, what people term as bureaucracy. And I'll always say this when I have the opportunity to say, bureaucracy is not in itself a bad thing, because bureaucracy helps to ensure there's no chaos. It helps to put things, you know, in proper perspective. However, where bureaucracy becomes bad is when it is wrongly applied with too much emphasis on unnecessary protocols that slows down important decision making. That's when it then becomes red tapeism, or we can call it bottlenecks. And finally, the one that really speaks to us at CIPM as the, you know, the body responsible for human capital and HR is poor utilization of human capital of their workforce, which affects efficiency and effectiveness within the public sector. We have a lot of talent within the public sector. However, they're either not recognized or they're not well utilized. Some may be due to the hierarchical style that we have within the public sector. So those are just some of the challenges that the public sector faces. And that's why we need to speak to it and see what we can do.
Interesting. And, you know, I think I was going to ask you about the last point that you made. We might have to dig to that, your response, because it's been a heartache for me as well, personally, regarding the aspect of the public service or the public sector. We'll go on a quick break now. When we come back, I'm going to ask you more questions about that last point that you drove across, okay? You're listening to The Office. Okay. This is Lagos Talks 91.3, and this evening, we have our guest, Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM. She's also the MD CEO of ADTO Consultancy. We'll go on a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll push some more questions across to her. And perhaps if you have questions as well, you can just send them via WhatsApp, and I will do well to push them across to her this evening. Quick break, and we will be right back.
Join us at the 15th Special Human Resource Forum of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, holding virtually. Theme: Driving Strategic Innovation in an Uncertain Business Environment. Date is Thursday, 6th of July, 2023. Members 25,000 Naira and non-members 30,000 Naira. Time is 12 noon. Join global thought leaders such as Dr. Amy Dufresne, CEO of HRCI and HRSI, Clarissa A. Peterson, President and CEO, Ohana HR and HRSI Commissioner, Marilyn Maduka, People Business Services Director, Africa AB InBev, Wale Adediran, Group HR and General Services Director, Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC, Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MD CEO, ADTO Consultancy, and Professor Yahaya Baba, Faculty of Social Sciences, Uthman Danfodio University, Sokoto. To register, visit www.cipmnigeria.org/SHRF. CIPM. We deliver value through people.
Biggest conversation are Lagos Talks.
Okay, welcome back. You're listening to Lagos Talks. This is 91.3, and of course, you know this is The Office. We do this on Thursdays from 4:30 up until 5, and we still have our guest this evening, Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM. Okay, Princess. So I was going to ask you more about the whole public sector thing, and you mentioned how there's poor utilization of their capital, of the human resource capital within the system. What do you think can be done about that? Because
Yes.
most of the times we go into public, public institutions, and then we see people just loafing around and just whiling away time and just lazing around doing nothing. And then they are packing their bags by say 1 p.m. or maybe 4 p.m. and they're going home. They're not pulling their weight as far as productivity in Nigeria is concerned. So what do you think can be done to put this and nip this in the bud?
Thank you very much for that question. Now, one of the things that I came into the public sector when I was headhunted back then was to come and drive some innovations. I'm talking about the one in Lagos State, by the way, because when we're talking about public sector, we're talking about the generality of Nigeria. However, and now this example is with Lagos State. Now, what we were brought in to do at the time was to bring in some reforms, some new transformation. And one of the things that we did was to really drive the agenda for HR practice so that we can have HR practitioners and professionals. And that is one of the things that they can do, because when you have your HR practice in place, if you're being driven by HR and HR management, you will be able to identify talents. That's number one. Number two, you will be able to retain those talents. And how would you retain this talent? Because when you identify them, you will utilize them. And when you utilize them, they're motivated. Do you understand? And another thing is also about being able to do the performance appraisal properly. Because when there's good HR management in place, there will be good performance appraisal that will also identify those talents, that will also ensure that some people are trained up or upskilled, that will help with their personal development plans and all of these things. So it really, for me, HR is the heartbeat of every organization. HR is what sends the organization to the right path where they need to go. And for me, that's the only way we can surmount all of this problem. If every tier of government can begin to practice and put HR into their system, I can assure you that things will begin to take a turn for the better.
Interesting. You spoke about decadence the other time, and it begs the question, if there's going to be some sort of drive, like you've mentioned, HR is quite important within any organization. If there's going to be a drive towards that, do you think that we're at a point where those elements of decadence within the system would not militate against this progressive change?
It will, but it will be minimal if we're able to put strong system in place. And not just about putting the strong system in place, it's also about ensuring the implementation of those, system. And it's also about what I call compliance management of all of those systems. So we have strong systems in place, implement them, and ensure compliance to them. Because, this sort of decadence, and having worked, let me say something here, having worked within the system for almost about 14 years before I retired, to be honest, there's a lot of policies in place. And do you know what? I found out that those that are not doing the work are just a fraction. The people that really put their heads down to do the work, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people doing the work as they should. But you have those, like they say, one bad apple spoils the whole lot. And that's what's happening. And so if we can just put all of those things in place, I'm sure that we'll be able to surmount those problems. At least we'll have, if we're having 80% of the system working very well, so it's like there's more of us and less of them. More of those that want the system to work and less of those ones. And if that equation has been shifted, if the balance is tilted, the ones that are not ready to work will have no choice but to join the bandwagon, because they'll be showing off like a sore thumb.
Okay. All right. So who do you think are going to be the key drivers to this change that we are seeking in the public sector? Who do you think will be the key stakeholders if we are going to go about this and achieve results? Employees, departments? Who will be involved in this?
Right. Now, number one, it's going to be the employees themselves. Number two, believe it or not, the citizens themselves. And then number three, the head, for example, the governors or the people, permanent secretaries, those are the head, those are the top. They will also be the drivers. Now, why I said the employees, because the employees are the ones on ground. They're the ones who knows what's going on. And then I said the citizens next, because the employees and the citizens must have that synergy. A government cannot do anything if you're not meeting the needs of the citizens. It's the citizens. The only reason why the public service is in place is to meet the needs of the citizens. And so we should stop being citizens focused. We should be more citizens driven. If I'm making sense. When you're citizens focused, you can sit down in your office and just think in your mind, this is what the citizens need, as long as what you're thinking about is something that will be good for them. You're putting all of those things in place, but you're not connecting with the citizens really to say, is this what you really need? Is this what you really want? Is this good for you? But when you're citizens driven, they become co-creators with you. They become collaborators with you. You take feelers out there. You see, you consult with them. You communicate with them. There's something that I usually say, it's called the 3 C's of citizens engagement: collaboration, consultation, and communication. When you have all of these things in place, the public servants, they are the ones who sit down to write the policies for the public sector. Do you understand? Not the political appointees. It's a public servant. When they bring all of these things together, they present what we something like a position paper to say that we've gone out, we felt the pulse of the citizens, we had our stakeholders meeting with them. We know that in this sector, this is what the citizens are crying out for. And we've had that collaboration, we had that communication, we've told them these are the things that we as the government, as public sector, we're able to bring for them. And these are the things that we're not able to. And when you communicate with the citizens, they're not that bad, as long as you let them have an understanding of how you can help them and what that help will bring to them. You understand? So that, for me, are the ways that we can start, putting these things in place.
All right. So we'll go on another break. And then when I come back, I have a question about the role of the HR professionals who are somehow within the system, and how they can be of help and how they can drive change within the public sector. So go on a break and then we'll come back and take that one, because our time is really fast. You're listening to The Office, Lagos Talks, 91.3.
Creativity and innovation in HR and business? Join us at the 15th Special Human Resource Forum of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, holding virtually. Theme: driving strategic innovation in an uncertain business environment. Date is Thursday, 6th of July, 2023. Members 25,000 Naira and non-members 30,000 Naira. Time is 12 noon. Join global thought leaders such as Dr. Amy Dufresne, CEO of HRCI and HRSI, Clarissa A. Peterson, President and CEO, Ohana HR and HRSI Commissioner, Marilyn Maduka, People Business Services Director, Africa AB InBev, Wale Adedoyin, Group HR and General Services Director, Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC, Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MD CEO, ADTO Consultancy, and Professor Yahaya Baba, Faculty of Social Sciences, Uthman Danfodio University, Sokoto. To register, visit www.cipm.org/SHRF. CIPM. We deliver value through people.
Biggest conversation are Lagos Talks.
Okay, welcome back. We will wrap up the conversation shortly. We still have with us this evening as a guest, Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM. So, well, I mean, time is really running fast. I thought we would have enough time.
I know.
To touch on every aspect, how time flies when you're learning. But let's quickly take a look at the role of HR professionals and how they can drive change within the public sector, with the support of CIPM, definitely.
Yes. Let me first, because you gave me, that heads up before we went on a break, I'll quickly put some points down so we can run through this. I've said that, and not in any particular order, have good and implementable policies, reforms, and re-engineering policies in place. And normally it's the HR, practitioners within the public sector that can do that. Be technologically driven, e-governance, digitization, have a charter that provides or sets the service level agreements and standards, including service promises, service pledges, and all of those things. Have a citizens engagement framework, which of course will be driven by the pillars that I was talking about the other time before we went on a break, the people who are the citizens, the practice, the culture as a government, the vision and mission of the government, the policies, the rules, processes, procedures, strategies, guidelines, guiding principles, and all of that within the public sector, and the performance indicators. The performance indicators, because if you don't have that, HR is nothing, because HR is driven by how you perform, and how you perform will determine how you excel. It will determine the efficiency, it will determine the effectiveness. They'll be able to set targets, they'll be able to set goals, they'll have scorecards, they'll be able to recognize talents, they'll be able to do their performance management and assessment, they'll be able to reward talents that are working. And this is why there's a need to have certified HR professionals and practitioners within the public sector. HR, as we all know, is the heartbeat of every organization. They are the engine room color that ensure that every part is working seamlessly, is working effectively and efficiently. They look after the interests of every team member, from the highest to the least member. So for me, without a doubt, this is where collaboration with CIPM, the only recognized regulatory body of HR practice, is crucial for the development of human capacity within the public service and the public sector.
All right. Thank you very much. I wish we could push on further, but our time is really spent at this point in time. Princess Adedoyin, thank you so much for stopping by to enlighten us on a few things.
Thank you very much for having me.
We look forward actually to doing this again if time permits.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. I want to say happy holiday as well, and do have yourself a fantastic weekend ahead.
Thank you so much, and I wish you the same, and thank you for the opportunity to share and also to learn.
All right. Have a good one. Okay. All right. You're listening to Lagos Talks 91.3. That's it on The Office this evening. Our time has, been spent, but we did spend it judiciously speaking to Princess Adenike Adedoyin-Ajayi, MCIPM, MD CEO, ADTO Consultancy. Of course, you know that The Office is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, CIPM, and Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. Until next Thursday, same time by 4:30, we'll bring you another exciting episode of The Office right here where Lagos Talks. Up next is Zeal is coming up for critical thinking, so don't go anywhere.
Lagos Talks, East Africa Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, studio. I'm calling from the detention camp.
We discuss.
There are too many things fundamentally wrong with the Nigerian law. And for this reason, there is no way criminal justice will not be effectively carried out.
You comment.
Our friends on WhatsApp are in with messages. I work as a contract staff in one of the banks. We work with like Jackie or get paid peanuts in Nigeria. And Nigeria is just built on a way to oppress the common man.
We interview, where did this all start?